Okay. And with this, I'm just going to name it Pro Tools Lab 1. And then I'm going to go through this stuff here. The general stuff is a wave file. Make sure you do wave files. 44.1 is usually fine. Stereo mix, 24-bit, interleaved. And I'm just going to have it right here. And I'm going to go ahead and... Cool, Johnny. That sounds great, man. I like that. So what we got here is an empty session here. And if I open up the Lab 1 PDF, it's just right over here. And it says, it tells you how to make the file. 24-bit, 44.1, all the stuff I just went through. And then it tells me how many tracks I need to make. So I'm going to go in here to Pro Tools, and I'm going to create a new thing. And I'm just going to go here. I'm going to make three stereo audio tracks. And I'm going to make 4 mono audio tracks. And I'm going to make 2 stereo aux inputs. I'm going to make 1 stereo master fader. And I hit go. Boom. And you can see that once you learn how to do all these shortcuts and stuff like that, how fast you can move through this stuff. It's really great when you can move through this stuff that fast. If I want to do that in slow motion, let me just do that one more time in slow motion. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get 4 of these stereo audio tracks. I'm going to hit the plus button over here. And I'm going to get, what was that? Oh wait, no, it was 3 of these. And then 4 mono audio tracks. Cool, I'm going to hit the plus button again. And I'm going to get 2 stereo aux inputs. This one here, aux, and then I'm going to get 1 stereo master fader. And you can see how much quicker it is for me to do it using shortcuts than it is to kind of go through and click on things. So really, you need to learn how to do the shortcuts as soon as possible. Now, it's going to take a while. Remember, I've been using Pro Tools since 1999. I've been using it for a very long time. So it's not something that just comes overnight. It's something that takes a while to be able to do well. But yeah, cool. So once you do this, open the import audio file window and navigate to the folder. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit Command-Shift-I to open up my audio, to import my audio files. I'm going to go to my downloads folder, which is where these things are, and get the Pro Tools 1 lab files. Here they are. I'm just going to hold down Shift and hit them all. And then what I can do is down here, remember we talked about this the other day, or yesterday, add all, copy all, any of these. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hit add all. If I want to make sure they're in my audio files folder, I can hit copy all, which is the same. It's going to be the same thing. And then over here, I'm going to hit done. And I'm just going to go ahead and put them, I think it says to put them into the clips list. Yep, right here. This step right here, it says put this stuff in the clips list right there. Boom. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the clips list. And then if it's open, great. If it's not open, we're going to open it up and you can see my tracks here. Now, remember what I said the other day? Right here, this is a mono file. How do I know it's a mono file? It's because it doesn't have the little diamond, the little drop-down menu thing here. And also, the stereo files say stereo. So there's 2 ways you know how this is a mono file or a stereo file. One doesn't have anything here, and stereo files have a little thing here where I can check out my left and right, and they also say stereo. So pretty obvious. Now what I'm going to do here is go down here, and we're going to drag the stereo files to the 3 stereo tracks. So I've got my 3 stereo tracks, 1, 2, and 3. And once again on here, how do I know it's stereo? Well, I have a little stereo, I have 2 lines here, and then also my panning has 2 pans left and right, and also my my track here has a little line in the middle here. See, this one here is mono. That's what a mono one looks like. And this is what a stereo one looks like right there. And again, this is mono. Number 4 is mono. Number 3 is stereo. And you can just see the differences here, right? Here's one pan, and there's 2 pans right here. So you're saying, so that lab assignment is just to see if we can start a Pro Tools session. No, I'm still going over the lab assignment. The lab assignment is all this stuff. It's not just to see if you can start a proper Pro Tools session. It's not to see anything. It's to do it. It's to learn how to do it. So if you're good with Pro Tools, like Johnny was saying, he's good with Pro Tools. He's already been certified. So he banged out these 2 lab assignments last night. It probably took him about 10 minutes to do this one. It doesn't take long at all if you know what you're doing. But it's still just good to go through it. And also it is part of the grade eventually. So once we all get Pro Tools and stuff going. So in here, so drum loop also, I mean, I don't know. I don't really like the word just to see. It's really important that I know what you can and can't do. So it's not just anything. It's actually pretty important. And this stuff, it's like if you know how to do it, it's super easy. So, all right. So what we're going to do here is, I think, okay, step number 8, it says, after you've named your files, here, I'm going to put these on here. I'm going to name these drum loop, perk 1, and EP loop. Boom, there we go. Refresher is always good. I agree with you, Johnny, totally. Okay, so here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click this here. See where this here says tempo, and it has this little red dot here, this little red thing. I'm going to double click that to change my tempo. If I double click it, now this little box pops up in my screen. And this allows me to change my tempo. And it says here 90 BPM. So I'm going to change this to 90 BPM. I just type it in 90 and I hit OK. And now you're going to see everything lines up. So all my grids are now going to line up with the tempo of stuff. The other day, I did show you how to set your tempo based on loops, but we're going to do that again at another time coming up here. Maybe not today, but another time we're going to do it. I think tomorrow, actually, we're going to get into that stuff. So, so I have these here. I just closed my window over here on the side. We're going to talk about that window later. So I just closed that window over there. All right, so if I keep going down here, change your edit tool to the smart tool. That's all 3 of these up top here. If we look up here, here's my grabber tool, my selector tool, and my trim tool. If I click on this one here, it's all 3 of them. It's called my smart tool. Now, over here, if you look at my keyboard, right on the side over here, and I can just zoom in on my keyboard real quick. So my trim tool is F6. Why is that not working? There we go. My trim tool is F6. My selector tool is F7, and my grabber tool is F8. Now, if I can just switch between these here, like this. But here's a cool little shortcut for you. If I hit any 2 of them at the same time, it'll actually switch to my smart tool. So there's this. I can hit any 2 of them. It doesn't matter which 2 I hit. It'll switch to my smart tool. It'll select all 3. So you don't actually have to hit all 3 at the same time. You only have to hit 2 at the same time to switch to your smart tool. And that's a really cool little thing. It took me a while to learn that, because I always thought you had to use all 3, but it turns out you don't. You only have to use 2. So that's that right there. Let me just go ahead and go back to my desktop for you. Cool. Now, let's just look at our notes here. So what I want to show you in the clips list here real quick was these little symbols here. That's what we were kind of talking about. And also the bold versus non-bold. So over here, if I make an audio, if I make an audio session, a MIDI track, instrument track, and in here, there we are. Let's go ahead and put an instrument on here. And I'll just use whatever. Let's use the B3. This is an organ. So if I put that organ on here, now I've got this MIDI track here. And I'm just putting whatever there. So here you can see, here's my MIDI clip over here. And we can see the symbols here. This is an audio symbol. This is the MIDI symbol. And if I group some of these together, the group symbol here we are, is like this. This is a group symbol. And it's got like a little box around it. And this one here means that it's got MIDI and audio. This here is like audio grouped together. If I just group the audio together, like these two here, it's going to have a different group symbol. See how it's got like a little box around it? See that box? That box right there? That means it's a group. So we've got a group thing going on here. Okay, so, oops. Let me bring my, oh, I just deleted everything out of there, didn't I? Let me just undo that. There you go. Cool. But this lab doesn't call for you making any MIDI stuff. That's going to come later. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the MIDI stuff out of here. I just wanted to show you that. Cool. So we got these here. I named everything and got the Smart tool on. Now what we're going to do is click on the first clip with the grabber tool and holding shift click on the rest of the clips until they're all selected. So I click on this one with the grabber tool and I hold shift and I click them. Now, if you want a good little refresher about where your tools are, right over here, remember this is where our tools are. This is our different tools with our smart tools selected. So it's right in here in today's Canvas notes, but it was also in the Canvas notes on the other day as well. Okay, and the shortcuts for the shelf edit modes and stuff. All the shortcuts are right here. Now the edit modes are these keys over here. If you look at my keyboard here, let's just look at this real quick. Look at my keyboard. These are my shortcuts here. So let's look in Pro Tools. So if you, up here in the corner, it's hard to see because the screen's smaller, but F1 is shuffle mode, F2 is slip mode, F3 is spot, and F4 is grid. And if I want to switch between the different grid modes, I just hit F4 a couple times. So that's how you would switch between those, just with these shortcuts here. One of the reasons why I like this keyboard for using Pro Tools is because it has divisions of the 4, 4, 4 here like this, and so it works. It's really nice for using for Pro Tools. The newer Mac keyboards actually don't have these divisions anymore, which is something I'm kind of sad about. All right, now let's just take a second and just stop there for a minute, and I just want to talk about how to set up your Mac computer here for a minute. It's yeah, you can use the button under Escape. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the tilde key. Yeah, and what that does here is it just does this right there. Yeah, thanks. Goes through that as well. And you can also use your command keys, command and number keys, for switching between your tools. That's another little shortcut you can use. But here's how setting up your Mac computer. If you have a Mac computer, the function keys across the top are used for Macintosh things. They're used. Apple has made them into their own special things. Like here's the turn your brightness up and down, and these are to different things for your computer like this. And this is like play and stop and fast forward, and here's your volume controls right here. But here's how you can switch that, because in my opinion, if you're using a computer for Pro Tools, that computer is a professional computer. And so let me show you real quick how to set it up like a professional computer. What you need to do is you need to go up here to your Apple menu and go into your system preferences right here. Your system preferences, in here, you can go into your keyboard section. In keyboard section here, you want to click this button, use F1, F2, etc. keys as standard function keys. So let me just do that one more time. I'm going to go to my Apple menu up here on the left, click on this, go to System Preferences, open that. I'm going to go here to my keyboard, right here. And inside the keyboard, I'm going to go use F1, F2 keys as standard function keys. And what this is going to do is it means that Pro Tools is now going to control your function keys. Now, If you want to use your function keys for controlling the volume of your computer, what you do is you hold down your FN key. If you're on a MacBook or something like that, like a laptop or whatever, your FN key is going to be over here on the left. But on this keyboard, the FN key is right here. I hold that FN key down, and now I can turn my volume up and down on my computer. So I can do that. All right, so that's how that one works there. Hold on once. Okay, cool. All right, so we got that there. Now, some other shortcuts that you might want to change, if you go in here to Shortcuts and go to Mission Control, I always turn off Show Desktop and Show Dashboard because F12 is actually record in Pro Tools, and F11 is, I don't think it's anything in Pro Tools, but it's something in Ableton Live. So I turn these off because I don't really need them to be shortcuts on my computer. So I have these two turned off right here. It's we're still in keyboard, so I go to keyboard here, and I go to keyboard, make sure you turn this one on, go to Shortcuts, Mission Control, and then these two here, Show Desktop and Show Dashboard, I turn those off. Okay. The other thing I turn off is over here in Spotlight. I turn off Show Spotlight Search, how that's Command Space, I turn that off as well. Johnny says it's changed on the new Mac. I don't. Oh, do you have the you have the touch strip bar across the top? I think. Yeah. There's a different option for computers that have the touch strip bar. I actually don't remember what it is. There is a way. There's like some other button you have to click first. I can't, like without it being in front of me, I can't remember what it is because I don't have it here. I don't have that computer in front of me, so I can't check it out. But I remember seeing it in class with the students who do have that computer, and there's like another button. Yeah, there is a way to get to that. What we can maybe do here, let's talk about that during Zoom when we go back to Zoom, because there is a way to do it, but I'll have to search on Google, and I don't want to stop too much right now. But we'll come back to that. I'll help you. Don't worry. I got you. All right. So that's pretty much that right there. The keyboard stuff. That's gonna change a lot of like how you use Pro Tools with your laptops and your computers, with your Mac computers. Now, I'm not sure how Windows machines are set up. So if you're on a Windows machine, you might want to do a Google search for optimizing Windows for Pro Tools and see what that does, or optimizing keyboard shortcuts for Pro Tools. All right, so now we've got that out of the way. Let's go back over here and over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, and right now we are in this step here. So it says hold Shift, click all of the rest of the clips until they're all selected. So I got this one here. I got this one here, Shift and Shift. There we go. Now change my edit mode to grid. My edit mode is set to grid. Set the grid to 1 bar. And hold Option to copy and click and drag the clips to start at bar 5. So I'm going to hold Option here. I'm going to click and drag. Now, Option dragging is it's a very great thing to learn for your computer. It actually works for anything. So for example, if I go over here to my desktop, and I've got this file here called Indoor Ideas. It's just a list of ideas for things for me to do while we're trapped inside, just so I don't get bored. And if I hold down Option and I drag this file, it makes a copy. See, it just names it number 2, right? So that is, I'm just showing you that because that is on your computer just in general. It's not just a Pro Tools thing. So basically, almost every program you've got, you can use Option to drag stuff to make a copy. And it works with MP3s, it works with WAV files, it works with photos, it works with blocks of text. It works with everything. It's really a great little thing to keep in mind. So you got that. So now, let me just do this one more time over here. I hold down Option and I drag it over, and there we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit Command D, and Command D, what that does is it duplicates things. I'm going to duplicate it until we get over here to bar 16. So it ends at bar 16, bar 17. So it's a 16 bar loop. Now, one thing that I highly recommend that you kind of get in the habit of like you kind of learn is that when you're producing in music, we're always going to talk about like the next bar. So 16 bars actually ends at bar 17. And you can see that on my screen right here. We're ending at bar 17. But that means it's 16 bars long, because in music, it's the next bar that always counts as the beginning of the next bar is the ending point of the previous bar. Because if I say finish, I want it to be 16 bars long, where we're going to go up until bar 17. All right. And that's something that it took me a while to get used to that once I first started making music with computers and stuff. I didn't really understand it until I started making music and seeing things on a screen here like this. So just keep that in mind as you go. It's going to throw you off at some point. You're going to say, well, I'm going to say like, I want it to be a 16 bar loop, and you're going to make it go up until bar 16. And you're going to be like, that's 16 bars. And I'm going to say, no, that's actually 15 bars. It's not 16 bars, it's 15 bars. So 16 bars actually goes up until bar 17. Cool. All right, so that's that there. Let's go back over to my desktop. Cool. So click on the first 4 bars of the drum loop with the grabber tool. So I'm going to click on these here, first 4 bars, and press delete. Hit delete. Boop. There we go. Also delete the first 4 bars of the percussion. Oh wait, did I not do some of these? I think I didn't do some of these. Hold on. I'm missing. Oh, I didn't. Hold on a second. Sorry. Before we start copying things around, let me just. There we go. Let me just put these in here. Bass. How low can you go? Breakbeat. Effects. And guitar loop. Bloop. And let me rename these real quick. Okay, I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to click on this. Now, there's a cool shortcut for renaming stuff. Hold on, let me just do that better. There we go. There's a really cool shortcut for when you're renaming tracks. So I've got this here. I'm going to, where's my naming? There it is in the middle of my screen. Of course it is. That's just where I don't want it. There we go. Okay, sorry about all the zooming. So here's my track here, and I can name it bass. And then I can hit next here with I can click on it with my mouse. I can go down here and click next. I can click previous, and it'll just scroll through all my tracks. But there's a great shortcut for this. If I name the track breakbeat, and I hit Command and my arrow key, hold down Command and hit the arrow keys, and it will actually scroll through your tracks for renaming them. It makes it so much faster for renaming stuff. FX loop. And then guitar loop. You can also hit the up and down arrow keys. I just got used to left and right, but you can also use up and down arrow keys. Cool. So now I've quickly renamed all my tracks. And let me put them in the right order. Now let me just show you something about this order stuff. I guess I'm pretty much in the right order. I'm going to actually reorder these a little bit differently. But over here on the left, if I open up this window on the left by hitting this little button down here, now this gives me my track show hide list. In here, I can click and drag these tracks to reorder them in my main window. So for example, I've got my drum loop, I've got my percussion loop. I'm going to put my breakbeat loop up here with my drum loop and my percussion loop after that. I'm going to put my bass here with my drums. I'm going to put my guitar after the bass and the EP loop and then my effects loops. So I have them in like an order. This would be like a real world order, like how I like to mix things. And you can see that it actually moves these things around on my screen as I move them here in the upper left-hand corner. So that's a cool little trick that you can use for all this stuff. That's really, really, really useful. All right, so I got all those. let's go back to ordering the tracks. So it says we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna highlight all these. Okay, I'm just gonna duplicate these out for 16 bars. My drum loop and my percussion, bass, breakbeat. So basically, basically it's just gonna be this stuff here. So let's listen to that. Oh yeah, smooth. What? Okay, cool. So got that. It says place your cursor at bar 3 of the guitar loop, and using the selector tool, hold shift and hit return, which will select from your insertion point at the beginning of the session, and then hit delete to clear the first few bars. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into this view over here, and my guitar, I'm going to put it right there and hit shift and hit return. Okay, hit delete, bloop. This is smooth. It's a smooth little group of beats, you know. It's smooth. It's smooth. So I got this here. I just deleted that, so now it looks right so far. And then select from bar 5 to bar 8 on the bass loop. Go in here, boop. And now hit Command F and give it a curvy curve. There we go, like that, boom. So now we got a little curve in there, okay? Let me do that one more time. So I'm gonna highlight these 3 bars here from bar 5 to bar 8, hit Command F to do a fade, and then I can adjust my curve. And then there we go. Now, another way to do this without selecting and hitting Command F is you just go in here, and see how when I put my cursor up to the upper left-hand corner, I click and I drag it over like this. And now I can drag the curve inside of here. Okay, and that makes things, for me, it's a little bit easier to do that like that. I like kind of setting things up like that. But if you want to use Command F, you can. Now, if I put a fade in here that I don't want, here's a cool little trick for you. If I put a fade in here that I'm like, later on I'm just like, ugh, I do not want that fade. Here, let's just go ahead and fade it. Okay, so I got this fade here. The curve is just the fade. So the curve, so listen to this. So if I curve it here, let's listen here. Let me delete this fade. Hold on. Let me just say what I was about to say. If I don't like this fade, what I can do is I can use my selector tool or my grabber tool to highlight just that fade. So I just go in here and I can just click on it. See, here's my grabber tool, and I click and I hit delete, and it just deletes the fade. It doesn't delete the whole clip. It's just going to delete just the fade. Okay, so let me put the fade back. If I double click it, whoops, sorry. Like that, I hit delete, it deletes the fade. That's how we can delete fades. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fade. Let's listen to the bass line. I'm going to solo it out so you can hear it. Come on. Here, let's listen on the bass, on the drum loop here. The drum loop is a little bit easier to hear the fade on. Okay, so let me put a fade on this so you can hear what it sounds like. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in here and fade this over like that. And now listen to how it sounds. Here, let's just loop this 4 bars. Right, that's what that fade sounds like. If I fade it a different way, like this, listen to how quickly it comes in. Right, that's what that fade sounds like. And if I fade it this way, so you can hear those different types of fades. And that's what the different fades sound like. The grabber tool, delete the fade only. Yeah, it only deletes the fade. All right, So also Antonio, I got you. And then here, let's look at this real quick. Antonio, where are you? There you are down here. All right, cool. And like I said, you guys are getting a free pass this week on late and stuff like that, and like leaving early and whatnot. But starting next week, I'm going to get a little bit harder on this stuff. So make sure you're here on time. Yeah, it's like a crescendo. Exactly. If you know the word crescendo, it's like a crescendo. Yeah, a fade is a crescendo. And well, fade in is like a crescendo. A fade out is a decrescendo. I never thought about it like that, but that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Now, let's see here. Andre, right? This is you, Sebaz DDP. Andre says, if you layer automations on a track, do they get in the way, or can you open a subtrack to have each automation individually? The answer is you can have them on subtracks, but we're not there yet. We are going to talk about automations. It's not going to take too long to talk about automation, but I think it's like Monday or something like that. We're going to talk about them. All right, cool. So there we go. All right. So that's that. So this baseline, they want us to, let's go back to the, yeah, cool. All right, so let's highlight these first 3 bars, 1, 2, 3, hit Command F, put a fade on it, boop. And we got the fade. Now it says using the fade smart tool, create a fade out on the drums from bar 13 to bar 17. So we're gonna go over here from bar 13 to bar 17, and I'm going to click and drag. Let's just look at the picture we have in the instructions here. See that picture there? So I'm going to grab up here in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to drag to the left, and it makes a fade out. And again, I can click in here and I can drag to, fade out however I want, like this. So if we listen to this, there we go, nice little fade. Let's get over here my EP tool. So it says with the EP tool, using the selector tool, select from bars 9 to 10. Where's bar 9 and 10? Here's bars 9 to 10. Yep, 9 and 10 on my EP tool, 9 and 10. Now, you'll notice that if I'm using my smart tool, sometimes I have to go from right to left. See this here? Because the reason why is because if I go from left to right, now, see how it just changed into my trim tool? Well, if I click and drag it, it's going to trim it. So if I want to select just this bar right here, it's easier for me to click and drag to the left. So keep in mind that might be something you need to do. So we're going to select from bars 9 to 10 on the clip here, and we're going to hit Command C to copy the selection. Command C, boop. And now place my cursor on bar 10 and hit Command V. And then we're going to do it at bar 12 as well, like this. So now if we listen to this part of the song, cool, and you can see it did this once again, okay? It just did that over and over again. Select from bar 5 to 13 with the selector tool. Hit Command Shift L to place Pro Tools in loop play mode. All right, so from bar 5 to bar 13, we're gonna loop play. So I'm gonna highlight this over here. Make sure, up here, make sure Link Timeline Edit Selection is turned on. So it'll actually highlight, it'll actually click, select everything. If you don't want it to do that, to follow where you click down here, you're gonna highlight up here like this. Click and drag across the top on the timeline. But if you wanted to follow where you're clicking down here, see how it selects everything. If I turn this on right here, it'll highlight everything and move it around for me. So that's that. Now, over here, so bar 5 to bar 13, Command Shift L to place Pro Tools in loop play mode. So we just want to loop this one section here, over here to bar 13, boop, there we go. Command Shift L. I already had mine turned on because we were talking about that yesterday. And now we're going to back and forth. And actually, I'm just going to loop this middle section here so I can get like a basic mix, because we want to go ahead and check out the mix. Now, one thing that's happening is you can see I'm clipping like crazy here. Well, not like crazy, but it's clipping, right? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and turn all this stuff down. I'm gonna do a rough mix. And I'm just gonna show you all the way that I do my rough mixes. So here's what I would start with. I'd start with my drums for a song like this. Now we can see that the drums are already clipping stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn my drums down to about 5 dB. Still clipping a little bit. All right, so we got this here. I could probably turn this up a little bit here. Cool. Cool, so I got a nice volume for myself going here, and I'm just gonna listen to these one by one here. And I'm gonna listen to this, I'm gonna bring the elements in one by one, turning them up into the mix. I'm not gonna start with everything loud and turn it down. I'm gonna start with everything quiet and turn it up. And there's not many elements here. So it gives us a good time to practice our mixing skills. And this is what you do when you're mixing. You start with your elements that you need to hear first, and you pull things up into the mix. This is a really cool way to do this. We're gonna add compression. You are not gonna add compression today. It's not like one thing at a time. We gotta learn how to crawl before we can walk, right? Young grasshopper? Yes. I knew you'd agree with me. Okay, so over here, got the break beat here. Now I'm gonna pull up my percussion. All right, that sounds pretty good to me. Awesome, that sounds good. I'm gonna pull up my guitar. Got that there, right there. Cool. Electric piano. Awesome, that sounds good. And now my effects loop. Awesome. So I think that sounds pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that sounds. Raymond, cool. Hey Raymond, thanks for joining us. Just a real quick reminder, the class starts at 9:30, and we this week is a free pass for y'all showing up late and stuff. But the drums need some compression. I don't know. I don't agree. I think the drums are already compressed. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of sound you're going for. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, this is not a mixed class. We could talk about that later. I'm definitely down to talk about that with you, Johnny, and also M Casanova. Who is that? Is that Maria? Oh, that's Maria. Yeah. Maria, yeah, I'm definitely down to talk about this stuff. But today we're not going to add any compression. Today we're just talking about how to get the basics of moving things around and whatnot. So I think this is a pretty decent little mix. I like my drums to be pretty high up in the mix, but if you don't want your drums to be that high up in the mix, you can just turn them down. The rough looks like yours. Cool, awesome, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, you know, this sounds a lot different than how it sounded in the beginning with everything just straight across the board. Now you can hear everything happening and stuff like that. And one thing that I learned, and I'll just kind of share with you right now, what I learned that really changed how I mix was that you start with if you're making dance tracks, if you're making tracks for the club or you're making hip hop tracks, stuff where the drums is like a really important element, then you got to start with the drums. You start with the drums and the bass, and then you make that a solid foundation, and you bring the other stuff in on top of it, and you pull it up from the bottom. It's not start it loud and pull it down. It's actually a psychological thing with how we hear stuff. If you pull things up into the mix and set it, you're gonna have a much easier time of setting it at the right place. That changed my life. I had already been doing this for years and years and years before I learned that, and it changed my life about how mixing. So there you go. That's like actually, that's really probably one of the most important things I ever learned with this stuff, and it took me forever. It took me like 8 years to learn that, just because nobody told me that. So there you go. You're welcome. All right. I feel like my pandas are on some kind of a really quick loop here. I want to change. Hold on. I just want to. I want the pandas to be. I want the pandas to be a little. I feel like they're looping too quick. All right, let's see if that's better. I know the pandas do more than that. That's really important stuff. All right, so we got that, and that's pretty much it. That's the whole. That's your whole thing. Now what we got to do is submission guidelines. Take screenshots of your edit mix windows. So all you're going to do is you're going to take a screenshot of this, which is what you do is you hit Command-Shift-4. Command-Shift-4, and it turns your cursor into like a little thing like this, like a little crosshair. See that crosshair there, right? Turns into that, and you're just going to you're going to grab it and drag it across, boop, like that. There's that one, and then, oh wait, did it tell me to delete other tracks? Whatever, I don't know. Whoops. And then I'm going to go over to my mix window and also take a screenshot of this one. Command-Shift-4, drag it across. There we go. And now I have 2 screenshots. If I go look at my, here's 1, and here's 2. And then you would upload those onto Canvas. And that's all you have to do. It's pretty easy. You thought you were supposed to learn mixing too. Yeah. You're going to learn mixing. What did I ever say that made you think you're not going to learn mixing? Please tell me what I just said that made you think you're not going to learn mixing. You are going to learn mixing, but you need to learn how to use this stuff before you can learn mixing. We're not there yet. One more time. Remember, you got to crawl before you can walk, and you got to walk. No. Oh my God. Are you going to really, you're going to needleize what I'm saying? This particular class is not a mixing class. This particular class you're sitting in right now is not a mixing class. Okay, good. No problem. And yeah, let me see, Guerrero, Johan, yeah, it is actually very much like DJing. If you, like, so I learned how to produce first, and then I learned how to DJ. And for me, it was really easy to go into DJing from mixing because it's a lot of similar things. And then, and it kind of goes backwards. If you pay attention to DJing and certain things, like if you know how to do the high frequencies, low frequencies, stuff like that, it definitely does help when you get into this as well. Okay, here we go. Oop, cool. All right. Wait, what did you say? Can I repeat that? I probably did repeat it actually. And then says this is an assignment. Wait, hold on. I feel like Antonio. Did I get you? Antonio, what was your last name, dude? Legger. Okay, I did get you. So you're saying, wait, this is an assignment. And how do we do it if we don't have a MacBook? It's an assignment. Don't stress it yet. If you don't have a MacBook or you don't have a computer, we're going to figure out how you can get it turned in and what you can do. I haven't figured that part out yet, right? Don't stress. I promise you we'll figure it out, okay? But we gotta figure it out. All right, but we're still learning this stuff. Mixes, this is the beginning. Stay humble, people. Jelani says. I agree, but yeah, this is the beginning. It's the beginning, and we got to learn how to use Pro Tools first. So this is this. Now, the mixing part I just threw in there is actually just bonus materials. It's not actually part of today's lesson, but there you go. And I want y'all to, we gotta get there. We gotta take it step by step. Okay, so there's that. That is the one here. Now, let's go over to into here. The grabber tool. Okay, so the grabber tool, continue. I'm going to go ahead and close this window down here because now what we're doing is not part of that. But what I want to show you in here is the grabber, these 3 separate parts of the grabber tool. There's time, separation, and object. Your time grabber here is just the normal grabber tool. So if I click on this and hold it down, so see here it's time, separation, and object in our grabber tool. And hold on one second. What this does, the time one, it just lets us grab things and move them around the timeline. Okay. The separation tool, this one works really well in conjunction with our selector tool here. So what this does is if I have this part right here selected and I use my separation tool, you can see I just selected my separation tool. See how it's got scissors in it? Well, what this allows me to do is it allows me to click and drag it out of the clip. This is great for when you're doing edits really quick. And I use this, when I'm using my Smart tool, I pretty much only use my separation tool. So I can move things around really quickly. I can click and drag things and move things around like however I want to, like that, without even having to touch the keyboard. So I really like having the separation tool turned on. So that's your separation tool there. The other tool that is under the grabber tool here, this one, object tool, is what I would call like a weird special tool that's like a Pro Tools thing. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to select different clips in different locations like this. So then what I can do is I can just move these over like this, boom. Now the reason why I say it's a Pro Tools only thing is because other programs allow you to do this, but Pro Tools, you have to have a separate tool to do it. Most programs, they use the command tool. So for most programs, if I use Shift, it selects all the stuff like in the middle. So if I click this one and I hold down Shift and click over here, it selects everything in the middle. And then with most programs, if I hold down Command, it clicks and selects just these two. But with Pro Tools, I actually have to have my special tool selected. I hold Shift, and now it selects these two. So it's a little bit of it's a kind of a weird Pro Tools thing, but that's what the object tool is. For me, it's not super, super interesting, but when you need it, you need it. All right, that's those there. And these parts of the notes is just talking about that. So separation tool, option drag will make a copy of the clip. Remember, option drag always makes a copy of the clip. Tips, use it with the Smart tool. If you select a portion but then realize you want the entire clip, then use the grabber on a different portion of the clip. So for example, what that means is if I highlight, I got my separation tool, and I highlight here, and so if I grab this, it's not going to grab the whole clip, but let's say I'm doing something and I highlight this, and I'm like, oh, actually I wanted to grab the whole entire clip. So what I can do is I can click on this and now move the whole entire clip. You just click outside of the selected area and it's no longer your separation tool. So that's how you can kind of get away from that. Object tool, this is literally just showing what I just talked about. It's your grabber with the Shift key. You click on the one on the left and you click on the one on the right and it highlights everything. And then the pink down at the bottom is your object tool. You click the individual ones and it will select the individual ones. All right, zoom tool. There are different zooms, different ways to zoom. Now, the way I like to zoom is this one down here, the brackets. This is how I zoom. So what I do is I just click where I want to zoom. Like let's say I wanted to zoom right here, right here. I just click there and I hit Command brackets and it zooms into that point. Oops. Okay. If I wanted to zoom in over here, I can just click and zoom in. Okay, that's not the zoom tool. The zoom tool, what it does is you click on the zoom tool, and now you'll notice that my zoom tool now has a little plus on it. It has a plus. And if I hold down Option, it has a minus. Plus zooms in. Click a whole bunch of times. I can hold minus and I can zoom out. So with the zoom tool, if I wanted to zoom just over here, I click and I drag and it zooms into that part right there. So if I just want to zoom into this, I click and I drag and it zooms in just to that. So it's a pretty easy way to do it. Now, I used to use the zoom tool all the time. It's actually a useful tool to have. The main reason I stopped using it was because Apple changed their keyboard and it became less useful to use. It just became harder to use. Now with this keyboard here, if I was still using Pro Tools all the time, I would actually be using the zoom tool again probably because I really like the zoom tool. But the zoom tool has another tool underneath it, which is our single zoom. So this is normal zoom and the single zoom. Single zoom, what it does is, let's say I've got my selector tool and I've selected this part right here. Boom. Well, let's say I want to zoom in just to over here somewhere, right? Not here, but over here. Well, the single zoom, what it does, if I switch to single zoom, I can zoom in and it zooms and then it immediately switches back to the tool that I was previously using. And that's right here in the notes. So zoom tool, click to zoom in, option click to zoom out. And then single zoom zooms once, then reverts to the previous tool. It goes back to whatever previous tool I was using to zoom just a second ago. My hands, jazz hands. Okay, so that's how that works. So if I want to zoom in, I've got my smart tool selected. I want to zoom into this part right here. I click zoom, single zoom, and now it zooms. And now you'll notice my cursor went back to my smart tool. Right up here, you can see the smart tool. So there we go. All right. This is all the things the option key can do. The option key is pretty dope. It can drag. Option and drag makes a copy, clips, MIDI notes, inserts, all the things. Option and click returns the setting to default for your fader, pan, and plugins. Option and change routing makes a change to all the tracks. And then option and insert plugins inserts the plugins on all the tracks. Let me just explain what that means. Oops. Over here, if I want to change my inputs for my tracks, I hold down option and I click on one and I say no input. Boop. There we go. Now, what you'll see here is you'll be like, wait, Tony, hold on. That didn't change the inputs for all the tracks. It only changed the inputs for some of the tracks. Yes, you're right. Specifically, it changed the inputs for my stereo tracks. Now, this is something that even if you've used Pro Tools a lot, you may or may not know this. But it only changes for the settings you've got here. So, for example, this one here, settings, what am I trying to say? The channels you have. So for stereo tracks, it won't change mono tracks. So here, I've got my stereo tracks. If I change all these to input A.1, 2, it'll just change my stereo tracks to A.1 and 2. See that? If I go ahead and change my mono track, however, to no input, it changes all my mono tracks. Because mono can be mono and stereo. Oh, actually, it's not changing all of them. Never mind. It just changed one of them, though. I don't know why. So it only changes the same channels that you've got. So stereo tracks will change stereo tracks, and mono tracks will change mono tracks. Now, that's a weird Pro Tools thing. I'm not actually a huge fan of that. That's like something that's like, Tony, that's really weird. Yes, I know that's really weird. I'm not a huge fan. I don't like it very much, but that's just how it is. So we just kind of have to go with it and just be like, you know, like saying stuff like Pro Tools is stupid doesn't help at all. It's just how it is. And it's the industry standard. So whether we like it or not, that's what's up. All right. So now we got our, this here. Let's say I wanted to put a EQ on all my tracks. Go up here and hold down Option and put an EQ. And it puts it on this one, put it on all my stereo tracks. Now, this is where you can use your mono tracks to put stuff on your stereo tracks as well. Let me just turn that off. If I put something on my mono track, it'll also put it on the stereo track. And the reason why it does that is because it actually puts a multi-mono EQ. We're going to talk about stereo versus multi-mono later on, but Now we've got EQs across everything. I actually don't recommend doing it like this because it's... Oh, what happened? Oh, there we are. I wouldn't recommend doing it like this because you're going to have to end up changing the EQ setting for everything anyway. And it's gonna get like, it's gonna get tedious. Damien says, would you recommend getting a Pro Tools keyboard to help with memory? And I am going to let Andre answer that. Or wait, was it Andre? I think it was Andre who asked that question yesterday. That was a yesterday question, and the answer is yes! I absolutely would. Thank you, Andre. Yeah. Oh, you already ordered one. Nice. All right, cool. And then X Paul says, FabFilter is such a blessing. FabFilter is amazing. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite EQs of all time. I would say, do you have FabFilter Pro Q3? If you don't have Pro Q3, then you need to get Pro Q3. Ooh, can you send a link to which one y'all bought? Nice, good idea, yep. Landon is here. Landon Richards. Oh, no, I got you. You're just, same here. Oh, you're saying same here. On Amazon, they're inexpensive. They have silicone skins for around 20 to 25. Yep. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, Andre. Yeah, good. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Cool. Yeah. So just so y'all can get like an idea of like how long I've been doing this. So I started working with Pro Tools in 1999 when I first moved to Japan. That's a whole story in and of itself. I'll tell you one day. But I wanted to buy a keyboard for Pro Tools back in the early 2000s. And those keyboards cost like $80 that had all this short keyboard shortcuts and stuff on it for Pro Tools, like $80, $100, something like that back then. So I never got one. So I just kind of had to learn it. And I'm sure there's holes in my memory because of this. But they were just too expensive. Now you can get like the skin for like $20 or whatever, the keyboard skin that they're putting the links up for. So, wow, one for $6. That's cool. Yeah. I would recommend getting the cheapest one you can get because they don't need to be, you're not going to use it forever ever. You're going to use it for like a few months until you learn it, or like a year or so, and then you're going to get a new something. So cool. Thanks for helping out, guys. Yeah, and Pro Q3 is awesome. I use it all the time. Let's see here. Anyone else? Any other questions? Let's see here. Option. Johnny says Option is a global button for Pro Tools. Absolutely. It's actually pretty much a global button for a lot of the Macintosh ones. And it does basically the same thing in a lot of them. So, for example, if I want to put, here, let's go ahead. Let me get my desktop back. If I want to put this here back to 0, I just hold down Option and click it, and it goes back to 0. I'm just going to hit Command Z to undo it. And same thing with my pan knobs. If I have pan knobs and I want them to go, so this is an interesting thing though. It doesn't put them back to the starting point. It puts them back to 0. So here's this. So if I wanted these here have to be left and right. But if I hold down Option and click them, it puts them at back to 0. I don't know where my water's across the room. Oh, whatever. I'll get it later. We're about to take a break anyway. So, yeah. Right, cool. All right. Let's see. All right, cool. So this is a good place to take a break because now we're going to talk about, now we're going to come back and talk about the second lab. So we talked about everything to do with the first lab and some other stuff, just kind of basically going back over the stuff that we talked about the past couple days. A little bit of review. Like I said before, we did like a deep dive. So we're going to do this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come back at, let's come back at 11:05. Let's do like let's come back at like 11. yeah, 11 o'clock, actually, like a 12-minute break. Come back at 11 o'clock, and we're going to continue doing some stuff. We're going to do the second lab. We're going to talk about the second lab. Right. Thanks. I'll see you at 11 o'clock.